next few minutes, I'm going to show you how I built my super basic but very effective fully automated client onboarding in less than 30 minutes using 3 free apps. And you can literally copy this. I'll walk you through it step by step. So I have worked in companies that had zero client onboarding system, even big ones. So that means that contracts were lost in email threads and no one had any idea of where certain clients were in the process. Clients had no idea what was happening, when to expect the next stage, what to do, nothing. As I'm currently building my own business DateTheApp, I needed a client onboarding system. I wasn't going to give my clients such a bad experience. So I needed an onboarding system that didn't make it look like I was running my business from the kitchen table, which I totally am. So what is client onboarding anyway? It's literally the very first experience that clients have of working with you. It's a very delicate thought, actually, because it's the moment right after they paid. So they've got that fear of, have I made a good investment? It sets the tone for everything. It's a little bit like the breakfast at a hotel. If your onboarding feels smooth, you establish a level of trust immediately. And if instead it's messy, doubt follows you around for the entire project. It saves you sanity because you're not going to go into your email to look at the last communications, to find documents, you're not going to drive yourself crazy trying to remember what was the last thing that you've done for that client and if you've even contacted them recently. And then, of course, this saves you time and money. Now, full transparency, I'm doing this client onboarding system just because I'm doing consulting at the moment while I build my app, my platform, but I'm not going to have it forever, which is why I'm not going to bother making a more sophisticated onboarding system. If I was going to do that, perhaps I would look into creating maybe a client portal of some sort, maybe on Notion, maybe on Software, maybe on Airtable, if I was running a service-based business and I wanted something more permanent and professional looking. Now, before we get started, what's the absolute minimum you need to have for a smooth professional client onboarding experience if you are a very small business? You probably don't need a hyper complex workflow. It really depends on your business and what it does, but for service-based activities, in most cases, you will need these 3 elements. First of all, contact management. This is an initial internal step. Your new client gets added to a CRM or at the very least to an email list. So you have their information saved somewhere and you can contact them in the future as well based on this interaction you're having. So for example, knowing that they bought a certain type of service from you. I'm using Brevo for this. I'm using Brevo for both my contact management, so it does offer a basic CRM at the moment, and I'm using it for sure for email marketing because that's what it's primarily designed for. Brevo is absolutely great because it's free up to 300 emails per day, so it's super affordable if you're just starting. The second thing you need is a document hub. You need essentially a centralized, organized place where you can save all of your project material. So these are contracts, deliverables, resources, and maybe you also need your client to upload stuff onto a shared space, for example, a brand kit. And this way, all of this material is not lost in emails. Think of it as a bit of a digital home for the project. And for that, I'm using our good old Google Drive. I love my Google Drive. So of course, Google Drive is free if you have a Gmail account. So I'm using that. Obviously, it's very convenient. And then finally, you want some sort of welcome communication. So this is something that the client receives in the form of an email. Essentially, it sets the stage. It says, hey, thanks for your business. Here are the next steps. This is what you can expect when. So for that, of course, I'm using Brevo as well. So now before we jump into the tutorial, these are the elements that you will need to have ready to make the best use of your time as you build out your workflow. So you will need the text of a welcome email, make it human and personal and fun, of course. I've got it ready over here. This is my example. Hey, first name, because of course it's dynamic text. Welcome. I'm so excited. What happens next? This is a link to your Google Drive, because in my client onboarding experience, I want my clients to receive a welcoming email and a link to their Google Drive. This is what you'll find inside. This is how the process works, and so on. Then you are going to need a list created on Brevo where your new clients are added. So you just go on Brevo and you create a new list, essentially. Then you want to have templates that you can copy and paste for each new client. So these are your key client documents. For me, in my case, I just have a statement of work. It's a pretty standard one, as you can see. And have a look at all of the elements here that have the double curly brackets. These are placeholders, and we'll see later why it's important to have them in my case. So I have a few details that are specific to the client. A few details, of course, are specific to the date. And I want all of this to be automated, right? I don't want to go each new client and have to, I know it's not a huge amount of work, but the point of this is that it's all automated, okay? I don't want to do it myself. So remember about the placeholders here with the curly brackets. So you need the templates, again, for your key client documents that you need to be copied. And then you need a way to trigger the automation. So is it when a meeting is booked, for example? Is it when a payment is made? So in my case, it's when a payment is made. Now, once you have all of these elements, you just need a tool to trigger and run your automation, your workflow. And then you need to, of course, build a workflow that says what happens when the condition is met for that trigger, and then what happens next. For that, I've chosen the Relay app. So this Relay app is a really cool automated workflow builder, a bit like Zapier, a bit like Make.com, if you know them, except it's a little easier to use. It's completely beginner friendly, and it's free. It's paid, of course, but it's free up to 200 steps a month. So every workflow has a number of steps. So for example, when a payment is made, then add my contact to my email list. So that would be one step. When my contact is added to my email list, create a Google Drive folder with the name of the contact and the date of today. That is a second step. So you have 200 of these steps for free a month. And in this client onboarding workflow that I created for myself, of course, mine is super basic, but I don't need anything more complicated. It's 5 or 6 steps. And so that means that I can run it around more than 30 times a month for free. So that's really cool, actually. And then as our business grows, the next tier over is only $19 per month. So this is a great little tool in our business toolbox. Okay, so let's do this. Let's head over to the Relay app. Same day, different background. I had to run and come and help my family for a bit. Where were we? So here we are on the Relay app. I'm going to show you how the workflow runs, and then I'm going to show you how to create it step by step. All right, so let's go and run it. I'm going to replay because I tested it earlier, of course, because I needed to check it worked. So as you can see, a Stripe payment is triggering my workflow. So when a client makes a payment, then the workflow is triggered. And what happens is that it goes through every initial one of these steps. First of all, it creates a contact into my contact list. Then it creates a folder into the client folder area that I've got on Google Drive. Then it copies my statement of work and also replaces all the text that I had in those placeholders that I showed you earlier. Then I update the contact on the contact list to put in my contact list in a column the link for the folder that I just created for that client. And I'll show you in a second why. And then I'm updating the folder sharing permissions, because I want my client to be able to access it, of course, because otherwise it would be a folder that they're not able to see or access, and they have to click on a button to request permission, and it's just a clunky experience. My workflow is run. As you saw, it's 6 steps. I'm going to go into my clients folder. So earlier it was empty. I should have shown you that, but yeah, it's 622. So this was just created at 620. So as you can see, the folder was created with my name and then the date, which is exactly what I want. So for every new client, I want my client folder to have the client name and then the date. Obviously, I'm the test client right now, so it has my name and the date of today. In the folder right now, we've got just one document that is my statement of work, which I want to create automatically for every client. The statement of work has the title that I've chosen in the workflow. Right here, I'll show you in the editor. So this one here, see, I selected my template and then I decided which title was going to be. So it was going to be SOW, statement of work, client lifecycle audit, and then my client's full name. So that is why it has this name here. And then the exciting thing is that all of those placeholders, if you remember on my template, which I'll bring up, I had some placeholders right here in double curly brackets. So I had my client name, my date, the date plus 30. So if that is the date, this document is valid until. So all of those details have been pre-filled by my automated workflow. So how cool is that? And here I've got my signature because that's part of my statement of work. But here as well, I had in my template right here, as you see, I had another placeholder. So this is a very cool way that you can very quickly create automated DIY documents when you don't have any more sophisticated document management system. And when you've got just simple documentation, like this could be also great for project documents if you have a project deliverable document, for example. So you get the idea. I have my windows open, so you might be hearing the ambulance. Sorry, I don't have extensive equipment, so I'm recording with my laptop, but hopefully we'll get better in the future. Okay, wonderful. So this has worked great. So essentially what has happened is that this area was created for me without me touching anything. The document was created for me. The URL for this folder was put in Brevo, and I just got the email. Let me just show you. So the URL for that folder was put in the Brevo contact list that I've got. I created a column to hold the URL link for my project folder, my client folder. And then the last thing that happened, and this actually doesn't rely on this client onboarding flow on the Relay app, but it relies on Brevo. On Brevo, I've got a little automation that says, when a contact is added to paid audit, so this is the list that I've created to hold all my client information of everyone that pays, and we're gonna use it in a second in the workflow. Every time a contact is added on my paid audit list, wait 5 minutes, and then send a welcome email, which I just got. I'll open my email and I'll show you what the email looks like. There we go. I got this email before because I tested. This is why it looks like this. But I got the email. It's great. And I can see the link to the client folder, which is fantastic. So now I hope you can see that as soon as my client is paying, a few things happen. Their folder is created with their name. The statement of work is created with all of their details. 5 minutes after they paid, more or less, probably 6 or 7, because then there's also a few minutes for the Relay app to run its workflow. But 5 to 7 minutes after they paid, they are receiving this lovely email that says, welcome, I'm excited to have you. This is your project folder. This is the link. This is what you'll find inside. And this happens without me doing anything. So even if it's just an email and a client folder, it makes it look really cool and very well organized. Now let's go into the Relay app and create this workflow. It's very simple to create. So I'm going to go and create a new workflow and then we're going to do it together. So once you are in your Relay app, you can click on new workflow over here, and then you can give it a title. I already have my client onboarding flow, so I'm just gonna keep it to that. I'll delete this one afterwards. So the first thing is you have to tell what kind of trigger you want to set. So for me, it's when a client makes a payment. Now I've connected already my apps. It's very easy the first time you create your workflow to connect them. So no worries. But essentially you look for the app. My payments go through Stripe. And then I say when a new charge is added. So when a new payment is made, essentially. I might also in time use optional filters because that might help me select a particular service. So I might have different onboarding flows for different services, for example. So when a new charge is added, the workflow starts to run, okay? So great. The first thing we want to do is that when a new charge is added, so when somebody pays, then we want them to be added to our list on Brevo, on our CRM, on our client account management tool. Okay, so we want the contact details for that client to be added to a list that says this client has paid us for a service. So I'm gonna go and look for my app Brevo, and I'm gonna click on create or update contact. It wants to know the email address of the person that paid. So this sees that there is charge over here at the first step. So we can go and click on billing email, and then we're gonna tell it the fields to populate. Now this is very important because we need to specify which list we want this billing email to go into. So which list do we want this client to flow into? So we're gonna go and specify the list. So for me it's paid audit, and then we are going to go and save their name into the column that is full name. The list was created by me, so I created manually a list on Brevo called Paid Audit to contain all of the contacts of people that pay an audit. Full name is a column name. This is why it looks different. So it's a column in that list, almost like a spreadsheet column, and I created it. It didn't exist before, I created it. So for this, I want to put, and careful, this is not text that I'm putting, this is a dynamic field. I'm telling it again to go into the charge that was received by Stripe and search and add the billing name to it, okay? So right now, when a new client completes the payment, that triggers the workflow, which then goes on to Brevo, looks at my paid audit list and adds a row into my client's table and adds the email address and the billing name to that table. Wonderful. The next thing we want to do, of course, is to go into my Google Drive and create a folder and also copy the template document and personalize it to the client. Right, I'm going to go and click on plus to add a new step, and I'm going to look for Google Drive. Here, I'm going to go and create a folder. Now, the folder title, we are going to say contact's full name, right? And then we're going to give it the date of the current date and time. We're also going to say extract date, okay? So we don't want a username with a time, but it's really nice to have in the folder name, the client name, and also the date of the purchase. Okay, parent of the new folder, another folder, that's good. Parent folder, this is really important because this is telling Google Drive essentially where to create the new folder. So we need to specify that. For me, because I connected my Google Drive, and again, once you'll do this yourself, you'll see it's very easy to connect. I'm gonna choose the correct folder, audit client. So these are all my folders, right? Because I connected my Google Drive, it sees my folders and it allows me to choose which one I want to use. These little numbers are the number of steps in my workflow. So we got to the third step, we're halfway through. So we're gonna go and create a new step, this time to make a copy of the template document that I need to have in my client's folder, so my statement of work, and substitute the placeholders. Right, so I'm gonna look for Google, and I'm gonna choose this one here, copy doc and fill in placeholders. Right, so this is why it's important to have a template. Again, it sees all of my documents. So my template is this one here. Now we're going to choose the name of the template. So I think I'm going to choose this one here. So I'm going to say, where are we here? I'm going to say statement of work, client lifecycle audit, and then I'm going to add the client name, right? And I'm doing it because it's much easier when you're searching on the Google Drive to search SOW and then put the name of the client to bring up the document quickly, rather than having to open every single Google Doc to check if it's the right one for that particular client. Here also we need to tell it which folder we want to save this in. Obviously, it's the new folder that I've created in step number 3. So what I'm going to do is to say use folder that we created in number 3. And now the super cool thing that this little copy doc and fill in placeholder does is it lets us substitute all of these placeholders, this little text that I've got, in double curly bracket. And to create a placeholder, you just literally have to write text and put it between the double curly bracket. I'll show you an example. Let's create another one here that says business name, right? So I just created that, and you saw I just typed it in. You saw how easy it is, right? Okay, so let's go here and let's find, look at that. That has immediately looked for new placeholders, and you can also refresh to see if there's new ones, but it usually goes on its own and it finds immediately the placeholder. So in my case, I'm going to go and say client name. What am I going to put here? Of course, I want to put the full name that I had in my contact. I'm going to put my contact's full name that I've got from my Brevo list. And remember, here we go, that I use it here, so it's quite important, of course. Then I am going to add the date. So the date is also really important because I have it. It's a contract, so I have it. Of course, I need it. My date is going to be current date and time. And here I'm going to click and go on to functions and then extract date. And then you can also format it if you want. But I'm doing that because I don't want to have a very long date and time format. And then I'm gonna choose my date plus 30 because I want to give a deadline. So I'm gonna put date plus 30, that's the placeholder, that's how I named it. Here I'm going to, again, choose current date and time. There we go. I'm going to, again, I'm not going to extra date. I'm going to offset the date. I'm going to click on 30, voila. And then I'm also going to format. I'm going to say that I just need a date. So let's just say that I want this one here. There we go. Because if you saw, I didn't do it in my previous one. And if you saw the result here, it has the time, which is a bit overkill for this. Wonderful. I am done with all of my placeholders. Now, if you remember on my email, I've got a link to my Google Drive folder. Now, how does my email know where to get this link? How does Brevo know which link to use? Now, we're gonna use the Relay app to, again, update my client contact information and add the link to their specific client folder, because now we have it. We're gonna go into Brevo again, and we're gonna say update contact. Now the contact, of course, is the contact, and now the field to update, this is a field that I created myself, folder link. And now for folder link, we're gonna go into the step number 3 right here, and then we're gonna look for the options and choose the one that has the URL. This workflow is essentially saying, okay, when a new payment is received, create a new contact in the client's list called paid audit in Brevo, using the email address and the billing name that were used to make that payment. Then once you've done that, create a client folder with that billing name. And once you've done that, then copy the template document for the statement of work and replace all the placeholders with the billing name that you've used, with the current date and all of that. Now, you're also telling it to go back into Brevo, update the contact, and put into the column called folder link the URL for the new folder, new client folder that you created. So now in the Brevo contact list, you've got the full name, the email address, all of that, but you will also have the project link for that client. And now the final step that we need to do is to update the sharing permission for this client folder that we created so that when the client clicks on it, they can access it. So to do that, we go back here, we add a new step, it's Google Drive, update folder permission, select the folder, which folder is it gonna be? Of course, it's the one that we created. And now we're gonna say anyone with the link. I think it's appropriate. This link wouldn't be accessible to anyone but the client and their team. And now for role, you can decide whether you want to make them editors so they can upload, delete files, they can do whatever they want into that specific client folder, not other folders of your Google Drive, just that specific client folder that you created for them that has their name and the date. Or to make them just commenters, so they can leave comments on documents, or if they can just view. Now I'm gonna say editor because I need them to put their name, their signature, their dates, their things like that. And perhaps I might want them to upload files. So there we go. So this is literally done. It's, as you can see, it's super quick to make. I think this is less than half an hour, but perhaps half an hour with prepping also your documents and everything that you want to have. But I hope you see how easy it is. Now, when a new client role is created on my paid audit client list in my Brevo contacts list, what happens then? Here there is the Brevo automation that says, when a contact is added to the paid audit list, wait 5 minutes and then send the email. So that's it. There you have it. This is the full workflow. It's a fairly basic workflow, but for a lot of services and a lot of projects for small businesses, you really don't need more than a cool project digital home somewhere like Google Drive and then a well-structured welcome email. I hope this was useful. Please let me know if you end up using it. I'd love to know how it goes. Let me know how you find the Relay app. I'm loving it. I'm loving it more than any other workflow builder that I've tested before. It's very simple and very intuitive. And thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.